And then we go to Adam Dewey. Hold on. And then top 5.
Aiden Brayley's probably worse.
AFL
Yeah,
tips,
hard.
and then international. Intro music. Welcome to another episode of Prime Time. I've got Nick beside me, Jaden off the bench. Another great weekend of sport. We saw the UFC, Adesanya winning by knockout. 5 hat-tricks in the NRL.
5 hat-tricks in the NRL, on top of a great knockout. Nothing better than seeing someone get knocked out.
It was pretty brutal. It was a brutal knockout. I mean, we were watching it at home. And then he pulls out the arrows. Then he puts the cross on the Monster Energy sign. Then he falls down and taunts
The dead fish
Ferreira's
celebration
son.
on a 6-year-old kid.
It was pretty iconic, but the 5 hat-tricks in the NRL, the last time that's happened was the 2004 NRL season. Now, I don't know if you know who won that
I
season.
think the Bulldogs won the NRL
So-
in that season. So if we're going off by history, if that's an omen, get on the Bulldogs to win the comp this year after 5 hat-tricks this round. But it was an awesome round. I want to start us off with our favourite segment. It's the fan question every week on our socials at Jon-Bernard K, at Pickle Studios, at Picklebet. We get fan questions coming in. What's the fan question for this week, Jay?
Fan question for the week's from Lucas Coolin, and it is, with Addo-Carr injured, who should be the Origin winger?
Who should be the New South Wales State of Origin winger? I reckon you got to shortlist it. I'm on the team of not picking Suoliti because he's going off to rugby. So either Daniel Tupou, who did the job last season, or you pick Campbell Graham, who's been an emerging player. It's out of those two.
It's been a bit of conflict. Phil Gould said, don't pick Suoliti, just pick Daniel Tupou.
He said pick a winger.
I think that's stupid. Paul Gallen saying pick Jack White in the centres and move Turbo to the wing. That's what I would go with. I think Turbo, what's really the difference between centre and winger? The guy's still a freak.
It's probably better if he plays on the wing, Turbo.
Yeah.
Because
And
Kick returns.
kick returns. And that. He's already limping around in the NRL season.
Even with Suoliti or Fox fit, I'd probably want Jack White as starting in the centres. He's earned that. And then Turbo coming back into the team, put him on the wing.
If Fox comes back, say 2 weeks to go to Origin, right? He operated straight away. Do you give him 2 games to prove himself to get into the Origin team, or do you go with a Turbo on the wing or a Graham on the wing, or even Daniel Tupou?
I'll take Fox on the wing, just strictly because, like Phil Gould said, put a specialist winger in there. He's the fastest player in the game, and he adds that X factor of, maybe something that they needed last year was just a bit of speed out wide.
I like Wyden off the bench. I don't like him
Yeah,
starting.
if they go with Luai at 6, would you play Burton at centre?
You could do that as well,
Burden-
though. They
Burden-
did that last year.
I think Latrell's easily one centre, and Turbo's got to be in the side. If they're not
I'm
going to
saying
pick
if
Turbo,
Turbo's on the wing and that other centre spot's vacant.
Jack Wyden's better than Burden.
In the centres?
Yeah.
He did a good job. Was it game 1 in Origin
game
last
1,
year?
he was their best player.
So, I don't know. Look, if I had to shortlist it, I'd go pick Daniel Tupou because he did fine last year. I didn't think he had anything wrong with his game. He's a good last tackle option. He hasn't been playing that badly for the Roosters.
It's not about playing
He's
badly.
still a consistent first grader.
Origin is the best of the best. He's
Yeah.
not in that category anymore.
Okay.
He's a great player.
Okay, but I'm saying if you had to pick your current, who's going to replace Fox on the wing, it's either Campbell Graham or Daniel Tupou, or you go with Turbo on the wing and pick another centre.
Or Suoliti.
If Turbo's still playing at 30%, what he's playing at now, would you even pick him?
Yes.
You'd have to.
I'd still pick him.
Dahlia medalist.
He shows up for Origin. He shows up for Origin. But let's look at who our best team was for round 6 last week. Who was your best team of the week?
My team of the week was Canberra. Ricky Stewart getting the boys up for a big W. Who thought that was going to happen? I didn't. I actually tipped Brisbane. I bet on them. They broke my hearts. Without Jack Wyden playing, it's a pretty tough ask. I think Jordan Rapana splits his head open. So
Is he back? Is he back this week?
Yeah, Jack Wyden's back.
Jack
this week.
Wyden's back.
But
It was a surprise upset. They were always one of those games. There was a few upsets this week, but
you could see it happening, but still great win.
my team of the week is the mighty Penrith Panthers. I think everyone, not that they're sleeping on them, but it just looks like they're going to go for the three-peat. They're clinical. They're scoring tries from everywhere. Dylan Edwards is flying. Nathan Cleary's taking it to the line. They're playing on both sides of the ruck. That separates them from every other team in the comp. They can shift the ball from one side on the 3rd tackle straight back to the other side on the 4th tackle. No other team is as consistent as them in attack and defensively. There's a stat comparing them from last year to this year. Statistically, they're a better defensive team this year. That's going for their third premiership.
I mean, that's probably the quality of opponents.
Yeah,
But
it is.
What's better is they've had no starting second rowers. Garner and Liam Martin have both been out.
This Hoskins come out of absolute nowhere.
Bro, the guy's a gun.
Yeah.
Where are the team like the Tigers or someone just bringing him out of the juniors? Actually, you can't be just going to Penrith where they've just lost Kikau, their best second rower.
Was Hoskin a junior? Was he a Penrith
I think he's
junior?
a Penrith junior.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. He's looking like a freak out there. And Liam Martin coming back with Luke Garner coming back, they're only going to get better.
Yeah, they asked Cleary, where does Liam Martin fit back into the side? He goes, it's a good problem to have. I don't know where you put him.
He comes in starting second row.
He comes straight in. Is he a starting Origin player as well, Liam
yeah,
Martin?
he is.
Zach
And
Hoskin
Australian
came from Brisbane. So
He's
he
a
made his
Brisbane boy.
debut last year for Brisbane. They let him go. Signed with Penrith.
Say what you want about Ivan Cleary, and he's got, yes, they have a great junior base to pick from, but their recruitment is actually unreal. Like Luke Garner, he didn't want to spend his time at the Tigers. You can't really blame him. They get him at Penrith for peanuts. Then they get Hoskin. Like, their recruitment is actually second to none as well.
Anyways, who was players now?
I would say my player of the round, if you want me to go first. My player of the round, again from the Penrith Panthers, Dylan Edwards, scoring 4 tries. That he doesn't get, we say that every week, doesn't get enough credit for what he does on the field. You saw Nathan Cleary come out saying he's a humble guy, never wants any credit, but they adore him, he said, at the Penrith Panthers, because he does his job, he's consistent. He has one of the most running meters in the NRL. He serves his job for the team, plus he's everywhere. He's everywhere for them. So I just think he's a freak, and there's been talks in the media about could he be $1 million player if he had to prioritise Jerome Luai or him?
No.
I just think he deserves more credit, and he could be a smoky for an emerging Origin team, or eventually playing Origin, because if a Teddy goes down or a Turbo goes down, he should be in the talks of getting in there because he's a freak.
He's gone from giving him no credit to giving him too much credit. He's even said himself that he's not as good a quality player as Turbo.
He didn't say quality player because I don't sum it up. I don't sum coming out the back and my ball playing options out the back aren't as good as a Teddy or Latrell.
And that's what $1 million is worth. That's what you get for getting paid $1 million.
Yeah, but what about longevity and consistency? I don't remember him ever missing many games. His positional play as a fullback is second to none. Why he doesn't get credit for it is because he just consistently does it.
Where's this narrative that he doesn't get credit? He
He
won the
does-
Clive Churchill
everyone-
medal.
yeah, everyone
Everyone's
gives him
saying
the
he's a
credit
top
these
5
days.
fullback now.
Because he doesn't come out and make a song and dance like every other,
Yeah,
like
but
every
like
other
Latrell
fullback
doesn't
or
do
every
that
other
either.
fan base.
No one does that.
Every other fan base. Souths will come out and go, no, Latrell's the best player in the comp. Turbo, same thing from Manly fans. Go try and tell a Roosters fan that Tedesco isn't a top 5 fullback, or as in the best fullback in the comp. No one makes a song and dance for
Yeah, because
Dylan Edwards.
he doesn't deserve it. He's not
He
as
does.
good as
He
them.
does. He
He
does.
does
That's-
deserve it.
I'm
That's
saying
stupid.
he deserves praise,
If
but
Dylan
not that
Edwards
much.
keeps up this form, couple tries a game, whatever else, I still don't think he's in that Origin team though. Like I don't know what
Only
you
because
need to
there's
do.
players like Tedesco and Trebojevic there. Right now. That's just an unlucky thing. That's like Cooper Cronk when he was one of the best 7s in the comp at Melbourne and not getting a start because he had the Lockiers in front of him and, even like Cherry. There was always that Thurston in front of him. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
What's the difference between him and Clint Gutherson?
Dylan Edwards?
Yeah. If
He's in a
if-
winning
a
team.
whole lot,
consistent,
a whole lot.
consistently
If
winning
Gutherson
team.
was on Penrith, that'd be the exact same.
Nah, I disagree. Dylan Edwards runs for close to 300 metres a game. Gutho runs for 100.
They're
That's a
both
former
safe.
fullback telling you that.
Tackle breaks through the roof, and Gutherson's probably ball playing is a bit better than
Anyway,
Dylan Edwards.
okay,
but-
we'll see it because when Dylan Edwards comes and it comes to the end of this year, I said come November 1, he's off contract. You'll be seeing how many people are throwing money at him, trying to get him across. And I guess we'll wait and see. Who's your player of the round?
My player of the round is a real fullback. Not a real fullback, a better fullback, Latrell Mitchell. Trell Mitt, 3 tries, set up a hat-trick.
Against the Bulldogs.
Doesn't matter. He said he was going to come out and make a statement, and he made a big statement. I don't like hearing, it was against the Bulldogs. They're still a first-grade team.
That's what I just said. Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, but it's just like the quality of they had 11 first-grade players out.
It doesn't
as in
matter.
their top
If-
30.
if they're playing-
If there's a game to come out and have your statement game, I'm not knocking Latrell. He killed him. But it's like, okay, I don't think he deserves to be your player of the round.
Everyone was
Anyone
saying he
could have
doesn't,
been a player
everyone
of
was
the
saying he
round
doesn't
in that
run the ball, 180 run meters.
Campbell Graham could be your player of the game in that.
He had try assists, tries, and run meters. Everything that people were knocking him for. He came out and showed everyone why he's probably one of the better fullbacks in the game. Pick him for Origin. Everyone's quiet now. So that's all he wanted. If he backs it up against this week against Redcliffe, okay. If he doesn't play well, maybe start having a word to him again.
No. He looks like he's coming to us. But like Campbell Graham was a standout for Souths as well. Every commentator's getting on him as the best defensive centre in the comp. And he's a strong, I think he's a reliable defensive centre. He's always burrowing people over into the sidelines. But attack-wise, I'd like to see him get a play in Origin this year and just see how he
I never
goes.
understand how you can play for the Kangaroos before you play Origin. It never made sense to me.
It's more prestigious nowadays to play Origin.
Where did he play for Kangaroos,
He
centre
played
or
centre.
wing?
He played centre.
Over who? Oh, it's because Troll was
just
forward.
said he subbed.
Troll wasn't. Oh wait, was Troll?
No, Troll played
No,
in
no,
the
he subbed in for I think the game against Scotland or something. He played centre and Valentine Holmes sat out. Their full strength.
Latrell was injured for Origin, and then they obviously filled those
Yeah,
spaces
they
in.
picked him.
Latrell will be back for Origin this year,
But-
so it'll be hard for him to find the spot. Maybe on the wing, I don't know.
I'm just saying, I never understood how you can get picked for New South Wales Origin picked for the Kangaroos and not for Origin. I think it happened to Josh Mansell, happened to a couple other players.
No, look at Adokar. Like Adokar's the prime example of not being able to make the Origin team.
But he's
then
made
get
Origin.
playing
He's
for
made Origin.
Well, it comes down
beforehand.
to coaches too. Brad Fittler wants to be a flog and not pick,
Adokar.
Trebojevic and Adokar. Mal Meninga goes, listen, mate, I'll just go with the best players that are playing. It's simple as that.
It's not that simple. Bro.
It is. I think it's simple. But on to players that are on fire at the moment. Nicho Hynes just signing a $7 million deal that'll see him at the Cronulla Sharks till the end of 2029. Huge deal. Now there's been a talk of whether or not players should be signing on for this long. From a player's point of view, to sign a contract that'll see him at the Cronulla Sharks for what's a 6-year deal from now, it's great for the players. You're locked up, you're setting yourself up. He's earning over $1 million a season, becomes the Cronulla Sharks' first $1 million player, right? But from a club's perspective, a lot of risk.
No, it's not.
It is a huge amount of risk because look at your injuries that have happened this week alone. For players going down, how injury-prone players can be. Head knocks now. I think it's way too... But they're willing to take that gamble. He's a quality player and deserves that. If he's to go and test the open market, he's getting north of $1 million anyway, so they just want to lock him up.
I think from a team's perspective, it's a very smart move. You got a player that's Nicho Hynes, one of the best halves in the comp, Dally M medalist. Who knows what his market value would be in 3 years? Salary cap could go up, TV deals go up. So if you're locking him in for a cheaper deal now,
I don't think he's going over 1.2, which is essentially what
you
he's
don't
on
know
now.
though. What Cam Munster got offered 1.5 by the
but
Dolphins.
look at every other long-term deal that's taken place, right? Jason Taumalolo. Worth his $1 million a year season for 10 years at the Cowboys. I mean, Todd Payton maybe gives him 30 minutes a game now. Are they getting bang for their buck? Because now there's pressure on Nicho to be delivering that $1 million performance. Now the same goes for Luke Brooks. Maybe there's been some success stories in your Daly Cherry Evans, who's a consistent 7 and an Origin quality 7.
That's the thing though. You don't sign forwards to 10-year
But
deals.
it's
You
a-
sign halves and fullbacks. Players that are going to be critical players in your spine that you know are going to perform game in, game out and be the most important player in
It's
your
a
team.
massive gamble for clubs though, because not everyone's going to be a Cherry Evans. You're going to get your Ash Taylor scenarios.
Yeah, but you're signing
Are you
him-
confident that Nicho Hynes, and I back Nicho, I think he's a great player, and he's one of the quality 7s and in the quality halves in the game, but are you confident that he's going to be your Cherry Evans going forward for your club? And obviously they are, and they put their money where their mouth is.
It's even from the player's perspective, I think it's not stupid. But what if in 3 years' time he's the best halfback in the game and he could sign for 1.6, 1.5? He should actually prioritise signing a shorter-term deal and backing himself. I mean, he's 26 now, so I think he's getting up there in age in terms of back end of his career.
I think it's stupid for clubs not to just sign someone for max 4 years at a time. Because tomorrow, I can get hit by a bus tomorrow, anything could happen, but just how injury-prone players are today, like you just saw Adam Dewey go a non-contact ACL.
It's a very pessimistic way of thinking.
I'm just saying it's not in the club's favour because then you could just be stuck with a player for the next 6 seasons who's not the same player.
I wouldn't worry about that. If you're going to be signing someone like, I don't know, Lockie Miller, who's not as good as Nicho Hynes. No, I'm having a shit on Lockie Miller. He's a great player.
Yeah.
But you pick and choose who you're giving the long-term contracts to. For example, if Nathan Cleary said, I want to sign a 10-year deal, are you going to give it to him?
Yeah, I would. Okay, maybe it's dependent on the player.
It's dependent
because
on the
if
player.
Jerome Luai goes to Penrith and say, hey, Ivan, I'm looking for a 9-year deal, upwards of $1 million a season,
They would say no.
They're going to say no. So it's dependent on the player and the longevity of the player too. I don't think Nicho Hynes is that injury prone at the moment.
Besides his
calf.
calf earlier in this year, I think he played every game last year, and then for Melbourne when Paps was out, he was consistent.
He also has the highest winning percentage as a half in the NRL right now, greater than Nathan Cleary.
And he played fullback and he's played centre at Melbourne, so he can cover a lot of positions if he has to fill in. I think what Cameron Smith, no one gives him credit for, is he played halfback and hooker for Melbourne. So
Well, anyway, from the prime time here, congratulations to Nicho Hynes on securing $7 million. He played alongside me and Jay at Manly in the under-20s. He was leaps and bounds ahead of everyone there. from going in our debut game against the Bulldogs from not finding touch, couldn't kick for touch, to now getting $7 million. The guy's, very much earned his spot as one of the top earning halves in the NRL. But on to the Dragons. They can't seem to catch a break. Couldn't get it done against the Titans this week. And this just mounts the pressure on Anthony Griffin Hook, who's already been told he's got the tap on the shoulder and say, look, you got to apply for your job next year. And it's looking like the Dragons have shortlisted some coaches for next year. They've shortlisted, I think you've got Des Hasler, Jason Riles, Ben Hornby.
And Anthony Griffin.
And
as well.
Anthony Griffin, obviously, after he reapplies. So if you're the Dragons, who are you going for your coach right now? And if you're Anthony Griffin, why don't you just call it a day right now? I don't understand.
He's doing the George Costanza. He's been basically told, we can't fire you. We're just asking you to leave. He's just saying, you know what? Why would I quit my job if I can get paid out if you fire me? So he's just waiting till he gets fired. Gets a nice severance package.
Is he contracted beyond this season? I don't know.
I think he might be contracted till the end of the year. That's all it is.
Griffin?
Yeah.
I think it is until the end of the year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's in his best interest to maybe do what John Cartwright does and what every other SAC coach does, and go be an assistant somewhere and end up in a box next to an actual head coach for a while till you get your second chance. I mean, Trent Barrett's been in about 6 different coaching boxes over the last 5 years.
Best assistant coach there is, Trent
Do you
Barrett.
think it's awkward though, being at training, knowing that they want to fire you? Does it not get to you? I mean, surely as a toxic environment you're trying to put away as a rugby league team, at training you're like, my coach is going to be sacked next week. Why am I even playing that hard?
Well, the fact they've shortlisted a few coaches, I'd personally like to see someone that hasn't got a gig in the NRL yet, like a Jason Riles as a head coach or a Ben Hornby. But I don't want to see Des Hasler get another opportunity. You've said he's had his time at Manly, he's had his time at the Bulldogs. Can we get some new blood in the NRL coaches?
I would back Des Hasler because he's a good coach. Everywhere he's been, he's done well. Last stint at Manly didn't end well, but that was out of his control.
Yeah, but he also causes a bit of a mess behind the scenes, whether it's corporate or signing players on long-term deals that are back-ended. He also makes a mess of clubs too. He's got a bad track record. Give it to Jason Riles, who's been under Craig Bellamy. You know what I mean?
And he played for the Dragons for 10 years.
He knows the club culture.
Phil
The Dragons need to do what the Bulldogs are doing and rebuild from the ground up. Get the players around the Dragons culture, not the choking pre-2010s culture, but just, get amongst your supporters again what it was like to be a winning Dragon. And bring your old players back to the club. Your Matt Coopers, your Ben Hornbys, those winning players. Bring back Mark Gasnier.
Are you going to be able to do that with a coach that hasn't coached the game yet? Like to bring back that winning mentality.
Cameron Serraldo's a prime
that
example.
winning mentality
They
is
just
something
give him
that Hasler would bring into the club.
They give him an experienced assistant coach that can help him through those, like the Benji Tim Sheen situation.
No, that doesn't seem to be working.
That seems to be working very well.
As a blueprint, that's not really.
Gus Gould said hire Des Hasler because the last time they hired an experienced coach was Wayne Bennett, and that's what they need. They need someone that's not from their culture, not from the way they've been doing things, which I thought Anthony Griffin was as well.
Mate,
but
I don't know why coaches can't just copy the Wayne Bennett blueprint. Because that guy, what he's done to the Dolphins this year, I think puts him in discussions to be above Bellamy and above everyone else. I'm telling you, because and I've touched on it in last few weeks' episodes, is that every other NRL club has no excuse because he's gone with a group of replacement players and turned them into a top 4 team. All right, it's the start of the season, but for them to be attacking better than the Bulldogs or the Dragons or the Gold Coast Titans, or even be defensively better, is a joke, is an indictment on other clubs.
What you need to look at as well is like the Hammer, Jermaine Asako, like these guys at the start of the year or off-season was like, oh, who wants these guys? And now clubs are hitting their head against the wall saying, why didn't we sign him? Why didn't we sign him? Because Bellamy.
Todd Payton was a bit dirty.
Yeah.
That he said there was at the post conference. He goes, I know we let him go last year, and that was on him. And he goes, but it's good to see him playing good footy. He's a good kid, but good on the Hammer. Really making a name for himself in the Dolphins.
I think he's the second player ever to score 6 tries in the first 6 games of the season. So
Mate,
good on him.
I hope to see him. Does he get an emerging spot in the State of Origin team?
I think so.
Hopefully we see him down there in Adelaide.
Origin, hasn't he?
I don't think he's...
I think he started on the wing one game for Origin. Between those 2020 when they had no one. Corey Allen got a start, so I don't know if it's too much of a nod.
Well, they're doing something right at Redcliffe. But on to something that was very controversial in the week. It got a lot of legends of the game talking. It's the hip drop tackle. Everyone's been talking the hip drop. It's a dangerous tackle. I didn't even know what it was till maybe the start of the season. It's almost burst onto the scene over the last maybe 12 months.
Last year
Yeah,
it started when Jackson Hastings did his ankle. I think Carrigan broke his ankle doing it.
I feel like the media's just invented the term because it's a headline catcher. But you could see it's been the talk of every media outlet. Phil Gould's come out and said, listen, accidents happen in the game, okay? It's rugby league. It's a tough sport. You can't be policing every accident in the game. Whereas Matty Johns has come out and said, this is a dangerous tackle and it needs to be eradicated from the game. And he applauds the NRL's crackdown on it. But it's like, how do you decipher when it is? A lot of the penalties are being called when a player is down injured, and that's when they actually put it on report and the match review committee assesses it and go, yep, that's a hip drop tackle. A lot of them go unnoticed. So what's the criteria?
Anyone that's played rugby league knows that these tackles just happen. If you're trying to bring someone, especially someone that's bigger than you, down, you're going to use your body weight against theirs. You're going to pull them to the ground. That one, that Dale Finucane that's been shown, he's just using his body to drag the bigger forward to the ground. Now, Matty Johns sounds like a pussy saying that. All right. There's already enough penalties in the game and enough high tackles that are being called
It sounds
back.
like when they were cracking down on the high shot during Magic Round. It's like, we applaud the high shot because we need to get out of the game. No, accidents happen in rugby league, and this is, if you're gonna keep putting players in the bin and putting players on report for using their weight to get players down or an awkward accident, you're gonna have, people on the sideline for 4 weeks like, Felice Kafusis or Jacob Preston may be facing charges, even though his charges got dropped, he faced no charges. But we need more players in the game. Every week on week, you're getting, this player's out and this player's out due to injury or suspension, and you're not getting the best NRL players playing the game.
It's stupid to think that players can miss time and maybe even cop fines for just normal tackles in a game. And hip drop, like you said, only come around the last 12 months. 10 years ago, were people doing their ankles from this tackle? It's not like coaches are telling them, when you're in this position, drop your body weight to get them down. It's an accident.
Also, how do you know if there's malicious intent in a hip drop tackle? Like, you're just trying to win the ruck. How do you know? What's the intention? Careless and reckless. Someone's interpretation of reckless is different from another's. And what if it's just Jacob Preston just trying to get the bigger man down? That's all it was.
And then speaking of reckless or careless, Jordan Rapana.
That was rough.
Copping Marty Tapau's knee to the head.
In full flight, Marty Tapau, and straight away, Jordan Rapana's blood was splurting out of his head. It looked like a scene from Kill Bill, like it was just CGI, blood splurting out of his head. His jersey was full of blood. Not the greatest look for the game if a junior footy kid is just watching.
What's this sport?
What's this sport? But in saying that, again, accidents happen. It was blown a penalty after the vision. When I first saw it, he knocked it on. Brisbane jump on it and score a try. I'm thinking award the try. Mind you, we were on Brisbane. Okay, it was a bias. We had Brisbane in the multi. But I'm just saying, if Rapana doesn't go down, are they blowing a penalty there?
If he gets up and plays the ball, it's play on.
Yeah.
But what's worse is they're saying that it's a careless high tackle. What is it?
No, they just said it was reckless from Jordan Rapana.
Unnecessary roughness?
It was reckless from Marty Tapau. Players like Billy Slater, former players like Brad Fittler go, it was careless. He's rushing in. He wasn't looking at the ball. He has no care as a player, no duty of care shown from him as a defensive player going for Jordan Rapana.
What's the difference if you're under the high ball and you're going down with it and you cop a forearm to the head? It's the exact same thing. Any contact with the head should be a penalty, regardless if it's your arm, your knee, your foot.
So you think it should be a penalty?
I think it should have been a penalty.
Rapana's put his head down.
Say Rapana has gone forward and put his head into him. It's the same when Tedesco slips and falls because he doesn't have metal studs every week and falls into a forearm.
Yeah. But he gets a penalty.
He gets a penalty there. I understand.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
But this is completely different because his centre of gravity is way lower, and Marty Tapau's just coming in to make a tackle and applying pressure. And again, like we said about the hip drop, accidents are going to happen in the game.
Nah.
I'm all for, if he doesn't stay down, it's not a penalty. I'm all for either calling it a knock on or just having to play the ball again. Not a penalty, no one on report, because he never received any charges for it.
But any contact with the head, regardless, should be a penalty.
But if you're a player that's putting your head in a dangerous spot.
Why does the duty of care have to sit on the defensive player? Why is it also on the... If the attacking player is putting himself in a place that's going to put him in danger, Rapana putting his head forward,
right, for example,
or players going really low.
Victor Radley, when he tackles sometimes, puts his head on the wrong side and cops a hip to the head.
Yeah.
Does the defensive player...
Is that on the attacking player?
The attacking player getting a penalty called
The difference is, if you've got the ball and you're underneath it, you want to see Rapana go for that ball. You want to see him go low to catch that ball. You don't want to see him like let it bounce. Or
Okay, so
anything like
defensive
that.
players should just wait for him to catch
Not-
the ball and then jump on him.
It's
Is
not
that
in
what-
competitive spirit.
No, it's just unless someone's running with their head down, charging at you, and intentionally trying to get hit in
I'm
the head.
agreeing with Andrew Johns on this
Nah.
one. He's a great of the game. If you're, say it's the height, it's state of origin, one of the most physical, points of the game, and you're a coach and saying, listen, you got to go out and show some intensity, physically intimidate them. You're going out to hurt your opposition player. You can't stop and second guess yourself. It's rugby league. That's what they sign up for. It looked bad.
It's
there was blood
unfortunate.
spurting out of his head.
It should just be any contact with the head is a penalty.
I mean,
Like,
I've seen Marty Tapau bench press 200 kilos. I could
But
imagine
Jay,
his knee
his-
taking
his-
off part of
his
his head.
squat.
But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
when do you draw a line? When someone goes ball and all and it bounces off the ball and hits someone in the head, is that contact
Well,
with the head?
they're calling those penalties.
Well, I mean, that's not the rugby league that people go on. And Phil Gould has a right to kind of criticise that the game is going a little bit too soft and accidents have to happen in the game. You can't just keep calling penalties if players are going down.
yeah, but it's
If
not
it's
like
not,
Rapana's milky.
if it's not going to be a reportable offence which is going to get suspended, it can't be a penalty. And it's not like they didn't have time to review it. They had plenty of time to review it in the game, so it can't be a penalty.
Well, they are injuries happening from reckless parts of the game. Injuries that are happening that are not reckless over the weekend was heartbreaking was Adam Dewey doing his ACL, another non-contact, same left knee that he's done it on before. This is his third time doing his ACL. Jaden Brayley as well, going down for his second ACL as well in Newcastle. Didn't look like there was much in that tackle as well.
we didn't really hear about it till this morning, so I didn't really know about it till not long ago. But it's pretty shit. That's second ACL in 2 consecutive years. Dewey doing his third ACL.
Rough.
It's becoming such a common injury, which I don't like because you never really thought that players, especially young players, are going to have to miss so much time. I think Dewey will be okay. He'll be able to come back. I know people are saying, oh, he's off contract and might not be able to sign for a team next year or he should retire. It's stupid. Modern technology now, you can repair an ACL like a brand new knee.
Well, it's 9 months. I mean, like Jason Saab came back in 7 months, but
And he looks jacked.
I mean, you could tell straight away Adam Dewey was cut up. He knew straight away he's got a long 9 months ahead of
You
him.
hear that pop and you know that you're...
Yeah, and
going.
you don't wish that upon anyone. I hope he has a speedy recovery and he gets straight into work. Maybe he'll end up over in Canada and change his running style or something like that.
Surely there's something that the NRL or players are doing or the form of training that's causing these injuries. Because
It's probably like the body weight. It's just
I
they're
think
too
no,
heavy now.
I think it's a combination of the resistance training they're doing and the programs they're doing into the gym, and then translating that on fast movements onto the field and changing directions and
yeah,
whatnot.
but you've got NBA players, and in the NBA they're averaging 4 to 5 ACLs a year.
Yeah.
There's 82 games across 30 teams. They're playing a lot more basketball, and every play they're jumping,
yeah, but
twisting,
it's
moving.
the game isn't as
It is-
physical
no,
though. Like
that's right, it's physicality,
But
but it's
ACLs
also
are
body weight.
non-contact.
Look at players from 2004, 2005. Robbie Farah looked like a 16-year-old girl. They weighed 70 kilos. Nowadays, you've got Jaden Brayley. He probably weighs 95 kilos.
Yeah.
There's too much weight on the knees.
The
And that's
NRL,
what's
the
causing your
prototype
injuries.
of an NRL player now is probably causing those injuries, which is a combination of how big they are, at what weight they're running around at, and how much pressure their joints and knees can take. But it's becoming very common. I just hope he has a quick recovery. I'm sure he'll be back to his best. And that's just it's a big blow for the Tigers, who also lost Brent Naden as well. And they've gone now to 0-6.
They're 0-6 officially, the West Tigers, and at this point, you just got to feel sorry for them. I saw Tim Sheens in the box. I don't think he said a word. He was just letting Benji run everything. So I think they're trying to change things up, but it's just not working. And
They looked a little bit better this week. They looked like they had a bit of fight in them.
looked terrible though.
it doesn't matter though. If you don't win, no one cares. In 3 weeks' time, people are going to look at that game and they're just going to see a loss.
Well, they've got the bye this week, and then they've got 2 games where I think they can at least win one, which is against Manly. So,
Manly are desperate for a win after losing back-to-back games, or drawing and then losing.
but I'm saying with Dewey out, it's going to be a very tough time for them.
Do they bring Dane Laurie back in, or are they still dirty at him for...
The Twitter sphere is saying they're going to be looking to the open market to fill in some of their gaps with Brent Naden out and now Dewey out, which is, again, a 9-month injury. So that's someone from their top 30 gone.
Next 2 games are Manly, who are desperate for a win, and then Penrith at Penrith.
Yeah,
That's very
they're not
rough.
winning. They're going 0-8. I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's
I'm
0-9.
sorry, Tigers fans. Your team's shit. You're going to have more misery. That's all it is.
And again, like they've been saying, they're in the phase 1 of a 5-year long-term building phase. So bear with them. I actually feel for them. Being Bulldogs fans, we've been there. We're going through that growth phase as well.
Feel good saying they're in a rebuild stage. They haven't made the finals since 2011. how long's this rebuild been? You can't start a rebuild 10 years into a first rebuild. Like, it doesn't make sense. You got to do something. Hire a coach, maybe like Wayne Bennett or Bellamy. Give him $5 million a year.
Was it you that was telling me that the Dolphins have won more games than they have in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so Dolphins have won more games as a club than Tigers have in the past 24 months. So last season and this season.
I mean, if you want to look at a sign of a shit club, and then is it the CEO or the owner, Pascoe? He say he's sticking around for the long haul. He's not going anywhere.
But that's the mentality that they have to have. I don't want to continue this shit on them. I hope that they can get out of it and show glimpses of hope. It was like the Bulldogs at the start of last year. They were horrendous. Couldn't get it going in attack. Mick Potter took over and they started to win some games. Hopefully they can show glimmers of hope towards the end of the season going into next season. That's their best hope. But that brings us to the top 5. This week's top 5 is top 5 best comebacks from injury. Starting at number 5, Brent Tate. He had some nerve damage in his neck and he's known as having that surfboard throughout his NRL career. He ended up playing and representing Queensland in Origin for many years, went on that 8-year run that the Queensland Maroons had. With that injury, with that surfboard throughout his whole career, great injury comeback from Brent Tate. Had I think a prestigious career in the NRL, and he's a great caller. He doesn't wear the neck brace anymore while he's on Fox Sports, but he's a great caller.
It was hard playing with a seatbelt his whole career, but he played through a broken freaking neck.
Yeah,
played
like
Origin,
ankle.
Australia. Credit to him. And that takes us to number 4, who is Tamare Martin.
Tamare Martin.
Who took 2 years off with bleeding in his brain, which is pretty tough. I mean, I think once you take 2 years off, you think your career's over. I think a Cowboys doctor said if you play another NRL game and cop a bad knock, you're going to die. So to be able to be told that and then come back and play good footy for the Broncos last year and good footy for the Warriors this year before he got injured, it's a great credit to him.
It was a nice comeback story. He had written off his NRL career. To see him back is great. Another great comeback. Number 3 is someone that goes off the radar. You don't really hear much about him. He's done 4 ACLs. Tautau Moga. Now,
bastard.
4 ACLs. I would have called the quits after the first. That is rough. He's actually coming back into the NRL team this week, I think, for the Cowboys.
No, Dragons.
For the Dragons. So, again, another great comeback. To come back from 4 ACLs in your NRL career, Tautau Moga, credit to you.
If you speak to anyone that's done an ACL injury, Jaden, you're one, the recovery from it is terrible.
Yeah.
So to be able to do it 4 times and be able to still be in the NRL, have that motivation to still play, you're a freak. But number 2, I'm going with Billy Slater, who in, I think, 2015 and 16 tore ligaments in his shoulder, and he somehow came back, missed 2 seasons.
He almost pretty much had 2 years off.
He had 2 years off at like 34, 35 years old, basically was told to retire, but his love for the game and his freak athletic ability came back, went on a great run with Melbourne, won the grand final and the Clive Churchill. I mean, I can't think of a better athletic freak than Billy Slater. And to do that after you've achieved Dally M, after you've achieved grand finals, you're a freak.
Billy the Kid, that just talks to how great of an athlete he is, like you said. What a freak, one of the greats of the game. But number 1 has to be James Tedesco. Early on in his career with the Tigers, he does his ACL in his debut game in 2012. Right? ACL, comes back, plays a season, comes back in 2014, has a bit of an ankle issue, then fractures his patella.
In the same knee.
Kneecap gone, same knee. You'd think that'd be your career write-off, same knee. You'd be as a fullback, especially how he's very agile, has to move across. But look at the career he's had.
Yeah, and he doesn't get injured anymore
Toughed it out at the Tigers for a long period of time before making his debut at the Roosters. Now to do what he's done at an Origin level, premierships with the Roosters, the guy's an absolute freak. Probably the best fullback in the comp. James Tedesco has to be the number 1 comeback from injury story in the NRL.
Well, it's because he did it so young and he still was able to produce speed and talent at such an older age in his career now where you think his knees would give up on him. And to be able to win comps with the Roosters, win Origins and now win a World Cup, he's come back from what many said would be the end of his career early on and turned it into a prestigious career.
He did one as a junior as well, ACL. I think he's had
Would that be 2
three
ACLs?
surgeries. I think it might be 3.
Jeez.
To come back from that, mate. And that's why it gives kind of a nod to Dewey and Jaden Braylor. Like, players have done this before and come back on the other side better. So don't worry about those types of players because technology now you can recover from these injuries and be a better player.
Best luck to the injured ACLs, but also congratulations to Teddy making number 1 on the list. Now just keep the head knocks at bay. Hopefully we see. He's back this week.
Yeah, he's back this week.
Which will be good to see him. But Nick, the AFL saw some ripper games last round. Sydney Swans couldn't get it done at the death.
Oli Florent thought he kicked the game winner. You see him lining it up. Off the boot, it looks good. It looks like it's going in.
He starts celebrating.
He starts celebrating, but Alira from Port Adelaide spalls it at least 2-3 metres short. Now, if you're Oli Florent, looks on the ground, he's in disbelief. Poor bloke. I've never kicked a game winner in any sort of football.
No,
But
not a
you
goal
think
kick or anything.
you want to do the Steph Curry and start celebrating early. You want to show that confidence.
But you think you'd actually just maybe watch it to see if it goes over before you start kicking off.
Even the commentators that were watching it were like, he's kicked the game winner. Sydney Swans have stolen this from Port Adelaide. But the disappointment in his face.
Do you think he was maybe looking at
priceless.
the camera angle as well on the big screen?
I would have had to peek up there.
Yeah, that was rough. But if it was any other defender, it probably goes in.
But what could have happened is, Lance Franklin, I think, could have maybe boxed out the defender. They all thought it was going in, but it just fell short. And that's why I think kicking a distance goal in the AFL is pretty hard. But I'd like to ask you guys, kicking a 40-20 in the NRL or kicking a goal from distance outside 50 in the AFL, what's harder?
Outside of 50, it's with more precision. I would say the AFL's harder. A hooker kicking a 40-20 out of dummy half, he's really got a lot of.
Well, it depends what tackle.
He's got a lot to target.
A lot of the field to play.
A lot of
with,
the
yeah.
field to target, especially if it's just a fullback in the middle. Whereas an AFL has got to be a precision kick for 6 points down the middle, outside of 50 metres.
But
how big's a 40-20?
40 metres.
Yeah.
So it's 40 metres, and it's probably got to be one bouncing out, because anytime it's
Have
bouncing
to be
more than
one
that,
bouncing
The
out.
only difficult part about a 40-20 is the bounce. Like an AFL player would be able to hit that angle of the kick 9 times out of 10, but it's the bounce that can go anywhere. And outside of 50 kicking a goal, normally they hit it on the fly. There's no other factor like a bounce.
I'm saying from a set shot, it's probably easier. Maybe on the run when they're just on a counter attack, it's harder. But a 40-20, like the ones that Nathan Cleary might just sneak in when he's back in his 30 and gets it over the 20-metre line. That's a big kick.
I think you've got to be more precise as an AFL player and getting in between the sticks, as opposed to Nathan Cleary having so much room to work with. Doesn't have to be a one bouncing out, but he's just got to kick it in that direction and hopefully it lands into touch.
And a lot of the time, the fullback is there though to stop that from happening. You see them bat it back in all the time. It stops a lot of 40-20s. And actually, I don't know what's more common. I think the outside 50 kick is more common than a 40-20.
Well, what's your game of the round for this week's AFL?
AFL gather round, Collingwood versus St Kilda. St Kilda are 3-0 or 4-0 to start the season.
Where do they come from?
Collingwood, after a shocking loss last week, I think we put the mock on them. They're going to come for revenge. I actually think Collingwood will actually get a good win here. But gather round in Adelaide, they kind of copy Magic Round in the NRL. I think that it'll be a big success. Everyone loves Magic Round in the NRL.
Don't like the name though, even though it's the inaugural gather round. Pretty weird.
It's pretty cheap. I
Yeah.
don't like it either. I don't know where they came up with that. I think they could have done something better.
Everything in the NRL is better. No, I don't want to play the NRL as AFL. We do that enough. But that looks to our tipping this week. I've had an absolute shocker. I'm now 4 points behind you and Dad. We're tallying up our tips for the season. It's going to be my tips, Nick's tips, and my dad's tip. The loser has to get a full body 40-year-old virgin wax. Jaden, what are the games for this week? We've kind of gone through them. There's going to be some ins and outs from each team. Let's get our tips down.
So Thursday night we've got Dolphins versus Rabbits.
I've got to go with the Rabbitohs. I
Yeah,
think coming off momentum last week, Latrell getting into a bit of a rhythm. The Dolphins were very mighty. With the players that they have out, and to get a win last week.
We've got some big ins as well. So for the Dolphins, you've got Jesse Bromwich.
Massive.
And for Souths, Alex Johnson's back and Jai Arrow.
Jai Arrow being back is big.
Is big,
They
yeah.
needed that kind of
Forward up the
that
middle.
forward up the middle
Yeah.
that's not going to make an error and have those kind of bad plays. And I think South, they're getting on a bit of a roll now. They had a good win against the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are overrated. I know they got a good win against the Cowboys
I don't
last
think
week.
they're overrated. I just think that they surprise a lot of teams. Can they do this for the remainder of the season? They're just going to be that tough team that can spoil everyone's multi, and you're going to hate them for it.
But I'll take the Rabbits. Rabbits easy here.
Next one.
Next game is Sharks versus Roosters. And
This is tough.
big inclusions here are, so Wade Graham comes back from his suspension. And for the Roosters, you've got James Tedesco, Matt Lodge, both returning.
Teddy and Lodge
It's
being
a
back.
tough one. It's at Shark Park, which makes me want to lean the Sharks. Coming off a bye as well, so they should be a bit fresh.
Should be very fresh.
And that Warriors defeat.
Yeah, that's got that Warriors defeat still sitting with them. They're probably dirty about that. I'll take the Sharks here in a close one. I just think the Roosters aren't there yet. They've still got, they're lackluster in the forwards. Their bench isn't where it needs to be. So
I'm going to take the Roosters coming off a loss. I think, Dad's taking the Sharks here as well. He's riding Shark Park. But I just think the Roosters with Teddy back, Matt Lodge, they're gonna be a bit more better in attack, I feel. And they've come out and said that they're ready. They've had a rocky start to the season. They haven't been clicking. But I think this is the game. Cronulla haven't been too convincing either. Like that loss to the Warriors wasn't too sharp from them. So I'm gonna go the Roosters, a more experienced team.
And what's worrying is the Roosters pumped Sharks last year. I think both times they played them. So
I'm going with the
they've got
Roosters.
their number.
Next game, Brookie Oval. We've got Manly versus Melbourne. Big ins for Manly is your favourite Aaron Woods to make his club debut.
Wow. Amy
with-
Park?
No.
No, in
Okay,
Brookvale.
yeah, that's tough.
And then for Melbourne, you've got Nick Meaney out, Munster going to fullback.
They always talk up this rivalry. Now, they were abysmal on Manly defensively last week. Were abysmal on Brad Park and Ruben Garrick's side. Ruben Garrick's out of this game. I think Warbrick's going to go over for a few tries.
I think
Munster being at fullback will stroll over for a try. They always talk about the rivalry of this game. I'm going with Melbourne. I think it's a collective Melbourne from everyone.
when Munster's playing fullback, he's top 3 fullback in the game. It's just that Ryan Pappenhausen's there, so he doesn't play fullback. So getting him to play fullback, gets his hands on the ball more, roams around the park. I just don't think Manly have the troops to beat a quality side like Melbourne, so I'll go Melbourne.
Next game, we've got Warriors versus Cowboys.
A weird one here. Cowboys are somehow outsiders.
I don't know why. A lot of bookmakers have Warriors have the Cowboys at around $2, $1.95.
I know Cowboys lost last week, but with the side they have, Nanai back, Drinkwater still playing, and
weird.
Tulangi back, I'm going to go Cowboys 13 plus.
I'm going to unload on the Cowboys. I feel like, again, coming off a loss, Todd Payton's going to get up them. They want to show that they actually mean business in the
and
NRL.
Tamare Martin and Wade Egan are out. Probably they're 9 and 6.
Wade Egan's been one of the Warriors' best players.
Yeah.
So again,
you're talking 2 out of your 3 spine players are both out.
So I'm going to take the Cowboys, and I think that's a collective Cowboys. The Warriors again, very inconsistent.
No, I think
team.
Dad's taken the Warriors.
Is he?
Check. I think he's put the Warriors down.
He has. He's taken New
He
Zealand
likes-
in New Zealand.
He likes New Zealand in New Zealand.
Wow. I don't back that from Richard at all. But then we got the Knights and the Panthers. I think this is an easy one for everyone. The way that the Panthers have been playing, again, I think Jackson Hastings has been unbelievable for the Knights. He's been their leader with Kalen Ponga being out. Ponga's eyeing a round 8 return, but I don't think they're going to be able to get it done against the Panthers. The Panthers, for me, have been too good, too clinical. I'm taking the Panthers and Dylan Edwards to bag another one.
Well, Garner and Liam Martin are
both back.
So with that happening and Jaden Brayley being out,
Does
it's the
Hoskin
easiest
get
to
a
the
bench
league.
spot? Is he on the bench at all?
No, I'd put Garner to the bench.
So Hoskins starting 12, and then you've got.
They've got
Oh
the
no, you've got
extended bench.
Liam Martin, Garner as extended.
They'll
So
change
they'll
the lineup
name it closer
before.
to the side. They're
Yeah.
going to have a bit of trouble.
Tyson Frizzell's been playing some good footy.
Frizzell deserves a lot of credit.
I
Again,
was
could have
gonna
been one
put
of
him-
player of the week.
I was going to put him as my player of the week. When he plays well, they win the game.
Okay.
So he's one of their leaders. What's
Next
the
game, you've got a Queensland clash in Titans versus Brisbane.
Brisbane, I think easy. Coming off that loss.
I think AJ Brimson's still injured, so Brisbane off a loss. Reece
got
Walsh probably
Kieran
the form.
Foran in.
Yeah, I don't
Kieran
care.
Foran is a good addition, but no, I think Brisbane will be too strong. They shouldn't have lost last week.
No, Reece
And-
Walsh for me is probably the best player in the comp at the moment. I just love every time he touches
Definitely the
ball.
most informed player of the comp. Even just the elusiveness of when he brings back kicks.
Yeah.
No one can touch him right now. He's always providing a lot of spark. You know, it reminds me of when Kalen Ponga first broke in, and he was always consistently getting on the outside of
Ben
his
Barber.
opposite player.
So if Ponga comes back, who are you playing at 1 for Queensland?
Ponga still gets
Ponga
it.
still gets the nod at 1, but Reece Walsh definitely is an emerging player. And if there's any injuries around that side, Reece Walsh could play number 1.
Yeah.
Easily.
Next game, you've got Raiders versus Dragons.
Raiders here with Jack White
Again, this is a tough one. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole in a multi.
Jack Wyden, Joseph Tapine, and Nick Kotrick.
Yeah, but it's in
all back.
Canberra.
In Canberra.
Yeah, I'm going Canberra.
The Dragons want to lose. This is they've made it known that they don't want Anthony Griffin there, so they're going to try and lose.
Dad's taking the Dragons here. I don't know why. I think they're losing a key forward as well from last week with that high shot.
The Dragons, so they're missing Francis Molo and
Francis Mola
Ravalawa.
gone.
Ravalawa's out.
So I don't think they're going to be able to get it
Their
done in
only
Canberra.
try scorer, yeah. Last game of the round, you've got Para and Bulldogs. So there's some big ins for both teams. So Junior Paolo back, Wonga Blake, and then for Dogs, you've got Jaden Ockenbar back, Ray Fatalana Mariner, Pangai Jr., and Kikau.
Look, some big additions for the Bulldogs in there. I don't see them getting it done. Again, like with Junior Bolo coming back, it's going to be tough. Para, listen, as much as they weren't consistent enough against the Tigers and let them back in late, they are a quality side. They got quality players around the park. They're 9 7, 6, and 1 are just stronger, they're going to win. It's going to be a good clash for Reid Marnie going up against his former club.
I forgot about that.
But I just think Para are going to be too convincing for him. It would be a good gauge to see where the Bulldogs are at with a half-decent forward pack.
We'll go to that game.
We'll go to that game and cover it around the ground.
I just don't think Bulldogs have the tries in them to beat Para. Para are due for a good game as well. They actually have to play well at least once this season, but beyond that game against Penrith. And I don't know. I feel like Mitch Moses has been playing well, but just hasn't really. I don't know. They just haven't put their foot down on the gas pedal yet to actually start steamrolling teams. And this is the game to do it.
Well, that's a resounding Para from everyone else. The West Tigers have the bye. I think they're going to be struggling against them. I guess we'll wait and see.
You don't get 2 points for the bye anymore.
Nah, not at all.
So they're still going to be on 0 points.
Yeah, that is rough. That is rough. But check out our bets this week. Our tips and our picks will be online at Jon-Bernard K and at Picklebet on Instagram as well. So keep an eye out for our tips and our multis this week. But looking out to the international stage, the NBA is going into their play-in tournament.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how you feel about the play-in. I think it's a little bit unfair. There was a few teams that tanked to miss it this season.
Yeah, the Dallas Mavericks. They had a game or 2 games to win and OKC to lose 1.
But Slovenian night?
On Slovenian night, they just rested all their starters and said, we're happy with the top 10 draft pick. We're happy to leave it. We'll let OKC go for the play-in. We're not going to win the comp this year, which everyone was pretty dirty about. And I think the NBA actually started an investigation into it.
But how can you negate tanking? It's like when a player in tennis just wants to bow out in the first round and just throws the game. If they want to get a first round top 10 pick, they can just throw games.
I feel like you could institute a rule where unless your player needs medical assistance or for a disciplinary reason, they have to play. You can't just rest someone for the sake of resting them. It doesn't make any sense, especially for people like on Slovenian night. They want to see the best players play. You got to play your best players. Kyrie Irving missing a game. If I travelled to America and bought those tickets, I'd be asking for a refund. It's disgusting.
Now, for a player like Kyrie, when it was announced that he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks, and for them to bow out and not even
make the play-in,
got to be a disappointing season for the Mavericks.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well,
I jumped on their bandwagon.
They've got 2 of the best players in the league in Doncic and Kyrie.
And now he's a free agent as well, so he might not even keep him, which would be terrible.
Does he stay in the NBA?
Oh, of course he stays in the NBA. Wait.
You mean at Dallas?
No, I mean Kyrie.
Yeah.
With everything that's gone on this season,
he's still a top 20 player in the NBA.
I could see him just going, I'm going to Europe. Would an NBA team almost want him with everything that he brings?
He's got plenty.
I mean, I'd want him. I think he's a quality player.
The Lakers are starving to get him. If they could get him off being a free agent now.
Tristan Thompson, so I think I'd much rather.
Have you seen the highlights of him?
Yeah,
the 15 bricks in a row.
Disgusting. Yeah, but also in NBA drama was Rudy Gobert getting into a punch-on with his teammate on the sideline. Now, take a look at this. Tensions flare up. People are getting competitive. I don't know what was said
Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson, I think, said to him, why don't you block a shot? And then I think Rudy Gobert fired back, said, why don't you get a rebound? Then a few other things, he called him a bitch. And then Gobert said, I've had enough.
Just a straight jab to the chest. Now, is this play on or not? After the game, they said, listen, tensions flare. We get a bit competitive. We just want to win games.
What's worse now is, yes, play on, but they've rested or they've put disciplinary action to Rudy Gobert.
So and he's missing the playing game.
He's going to miss the playing game against the Lakers, the most important game of the season. In the offseason, they gave away 2 first-round draft picks to get him. And now he's not playing in your most important game of the season. That's terrible management.
Did you see in the preseason when Draymond knocked out Jordan Poole, Rudy tweeted, insecurity is always loud. And then last week, Draymond retweeted, insecurity is always loud, straight back.
Nice one up.
Rudy Gobert's got to cop that on the chin.
Yeah.
I still
Practice
think
what you preach, Rudy.
I'm probably going to go for the upset, though. Minnesota will beat the Lakers in that first 7v8 matchup.
Well, I think that is probably better for the Lakers because they get a better game in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they'll be the favourites now because Gobert's out, and Anthony Davis will probably be the best player on the court. But I feel like Minnesota have the troops to get it done against the Lakers.
Is that a best of 3?
Nah, it's just a straight up one game.
Well, I guess we'll see what takes place, and that's going to be into our next week's episode where we preview the NBA playoffs. We'll go through a bracket breakdown here on Prime Time. But I think that's going to be the end of our show here. We appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in. If you're tuning in on TikTok Live, go over to the JBK Show on YouTube and subscribe. Keep an eye out for our bets and our multis this week. We'll be putting those out tomorrow and on Thursday. But that's all for us today. Keep an eye out for Picklebet socials and at Jon-Bernard K. Thank you for your time and tune in next week.
It's a wrap.
I gotta really think about